Very good. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Moving on. Madame Blachette-Lamotte, you have the floor, ma'am.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ferguson, you made one single recommendation in your report, which is fairly broad. Would you have any details to add as to what priorities could be taken up to avoid such errors as the F-30 that we've seen in the F-35 file? Could you have any clues that could help us avoid the targets that you have identified, or rather the errors that you have identified?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did only make the one recommendation. We identified, I guess, let's see. Nous avons trouvé des problèmes dans 3 situations.
We identified problems in 3 situations in that chapter. The information was prepared too late or was incomplete, and national defense underestimated its capacity to properly manage unforeseen events. Also, there were problems with the financial information that was presented to decision makers and to Parliament.
We identified weaknesses in 3 prime areas: the process that was followed, the risk mitigation strategy, and the financial information. And we feel that part of any process going forward is to, number one, make sure that there is going to be rigor around and scrutiny around the actual steps that are in the process, but also the government will need to make sure that they have an appropriate risk mitigation strategy, and also make sure that they have a full cost information available.
You say is most interesting. Now I'm wondering about the recommendations in the report. In 2010, the report on the purchase of helicopters had 6 recommendations, which were not just to correct the errors that had been made, but also to improve the process itself, so that for future procurements there was a better functioning on the part of government, of the departments that were involved. So I think that what you said goes in that along the same lines, which is to say improving the processes and the areas in which you made recommendations. Is there a reason for which we don't see that as recommendations in your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe really the reason that we didn't make more of a recommendation in this chapter was the point in time that we were actually looking at it. I think, though, the fact that we simply identified that due diligence, sufficient due diligence, was not applied, I think is information that needs to be taken to indicate that throughout the completion of this, because again the final objective is to replace the CF-18. So I think, even though there isn't a recommendation on it, I think that it's clear that the message in the chapter is that to complete this project there needs to be a very good, very rigorous process that people can have confidence in.
Merci. J'aimerais poser une question à Monsieur Berthollet.
Thank you. And now I have a question for Mr. Berthollet. I know that you were there for the preparation of the 2010 report that dealt with the helicopters. When we can see that Public Works Deputy Minister at that time said, and I quote, "We must develop models for complex procurement systems to adopt better methods and processes. We want to get the lowest prices or the best quality for the price, best value." So this is what was said in 2010. You were there. In your opinion, have we met that objective that the department had set for itself, Mr. Berthollet?
Monsieur le Président, nous n'avons pas fait.
Mr. Chair, we did not follow up on the helicopter chapter, so I am not able to provide a specific response to this question right now by the honourable member. Would you agree in saying that comments that were made in that report as to the process used for the F-35s are quite similar to what we can see in the helicopter purchasing process?
Again, I think, Mr. Chair, the critical thing is we identified in this chapter that there were some significant issues with the purchasing process, the decision process. I think that they are, they speak for themselves. Again, we just haven't done a follow-up on the helicopter chapter and done that detailed comparison, but I think the items that we found in this chapter are significant and they stand on their own as things that need to be done better as this process moves forward.